Welcome, everyone. My name is Alicia Sullivan, and I serve as the Intake Coordinator with Sheridan Center for Equity and Inclusion. It is my honor to welcome you, our virtual audience, to Sheridan's commemoration of the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. As we gather virtually today, we would like to acknowledge that all of Sheridan's campuses reside on land that has been and still is the traditional territory of several indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, the Métis, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Since time immemorial, numerous indigenous nations and indigenous peoples have lived and passed through this territory. We recognize this territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty and the Two-Row Wampum Treaty, which emphasize the importance of joint stewardship, peace, and respectful relationships. As you may be joining us from different locations, we acknowledge the many diverse nations and territories you are joining from. Sheridan College affirms that it is our collective responsibility to honor and respect those who have gone before us, those who are here, and those who have yet to come. We are grateful for the opportunity to be learning, working, living, and thriving on this land. I'd like to start off by thanking you for dedicating 25 minutes of your time today to mark this solemn and important occasion. Some of you may find this day and some of the things that we're going to talk about upsetting. We greatly appreciate you tuning in, but please feel free to disconnect at any time should today's ceremony be upsetting for you. We are here to support you today and every day. Students may wish to connect with our counselors by emailing askanadvisor@sheridancollege.ca or booking an appointment online. Employees are welcome to access the Employee Family Assistance Program. All members of our community may also contact Leanne Kendall, Sheridan's Sexual Violence Response Specialist, should they have any questions about resources and support. Contact information for these resources will be shared at the end of our commemoration. They can also be found in the event invitation email you received today and on Sheridan Central. To begin our ceremony, I would now like to introduce Grandmother Renee Thomas Hill from the Six Nations of the Grand River Territory, who will provide a special message to our community on behalf of Grandmother's Voice. Grandmother's Voice is a body of unified Indigenous elders and knowledge holders committed to sharing Indigenous knowledge, relationship building, education, and healing. Following this message, Dr. Janet Morrison, Sheridan's President and Vice Chancellor, will lead us into the ceremony. Thank you.
Good day. It is a good day. It is a good day when we look and we see that all things are still fulfilling their duty. And so at this time, we like to acknowledge, they call it land acknowledgement, but to us, we call it acknowledging the one that has created all and the one that has made this day possible. And it is the Creator and our Mother, the Earth. Itnistaha yon honzari. So we like to gather up our minds and give thanks. Deitino Walada. We give greetings and gratitude to those magnificent helpers, those that have been here before us, of time, of love, unconditional love. That first mother, she projected that love to all creation. And so when we look out there, we see that that love is still being there for all of us. And so we give thanks to her for her fulfilling that love and sharing it with others. And we see that through all her creation. And so we think of the plants, we think of the animals, we think of the foods, we think of the medicines, we think of the trees, and we think of the shrubs. We think of all the plant life and all the animals, the four-legged ones, the two-legged ones, the winged ones, the fin ones, and the crawlers. And the birds, how they sing their songs, how they greet us and let us know that we have received a gift. We like to thank the trees and the shrubs, as I said before, because they are very important in our lives. We give greetings and gratitude to all the waters, from the smallest to the largest, and how they come and renew us and restore us. We give thanks. We give thanks for the winds that come from the four directions, how they bring the changing of the season. We give thanks to all the magnificent love that is shown to us on a daily basis, the morning, the noon, the evening, and the night. We give greetings to all those. We give greetings to the sun that comes and shines upon us, shows his face, and lets us know that we're never alone. We give thanks to our grandmother, the moon, who comes and knows now it's her duty to look after us during the night. We give thanks to her stars, to the helpers. They are there to show us many things. Once they said we knew all their words, and now we will, as they say, acknowledge and give thanks. We acknowledge the grandfathers that have come to renew the earth and the water that they bring. We also like to thank the helpers, the thunder beings and the lightnings, and so we say thank you. We give thanks to all these magnificent gifts of unconditional love, of renewing and restoring earth. We give thanks to all those mentors that have crossed our path. In ours, we had one, and he was Skanadilio, the handsome lake, and we give thanks for that magnificent human being that was once a leader that had fallen from grace, but raised himself up. And so we know we can do that. We give thanks for the four beings, and so we say thank you. We give thanks to all these things that has made this day possible, and we say thank you from the bottom of our heart, De Tino Alada. And so we now gather all this love, and we send it off to the one that has created all, to Sankoyandiso, the one who has created all, or to who you call your higher power. We send off our love and our gratitude. And we are very grateful for this day that we have been given. And I say thank you. Thank you for this day. Now, we like to be reminded of our original instruction. For you see, many have forgotten their original instruction. For there is now, instead of love, there is anger, and there is hate, and there is violence. You know, all this is a sign of a lost spirit, of a lost relationship with your higher power, the loss of that nurturing love. And so as a result, we have seen so much harm amongst our people, amongst the people that we know as a female. And the first female that we have seen the abuse of is our mother, the earth. And from that has caused much hurt and harm to all the females. And now it continues now. It has continued on to the abuse of the men and the children. And so this is war within themselves. And so we send off our prayers to all those that are suffering from that loss of nurturing, from that loss of understanding. So at this time, we're going to send off our prayers to all those that have been harming themselves and others. And so at this time, I like everyone to gather up their minds and to put out that goodness and surround those that are filled with hurt and anger, that they can rise up again and feel that nurturing and that love, and so that there will no longer be abuse of themselves and abuse of others. And so this grandmother sends out her love, her kindness and her goodness, and may it be wrapped around you so that it replaces the hurt that you're feeling, the anger that you're feeling, so that there is love for all mankind and for all creation, and especially for our mother, the earth. Oho, nyawa, miigwech.
Hello. It's my honor to be with you virtually today. This morning, we remember the 14 young women who were murdered on December 6, 1989 at École Polytechnique de Montréal simply because of their gender. This horrific event remains the worst attack on a post-secondary campus in Canada's history. While many years have passed, we're reminded far too often that gender-based violence continues to affect millions of people worldwide. These reminders are especially resonant this year. The global COVID-19 pandemic, which has devastated so many, has further exposed deep social inequalities. It's clear that marginalized groups, including people of color and women, are bearing the weight of this crisis disproportionately. On this day of remembrance, I want to explicitly acknowledge that crises are devastating catalysts for gender-based violence. While the world continues to grapple with the restrictions, uncertainty, and economic pressures presented by the pandemic, there has been a troubling increase in reported cases of violence against women and girls, and a rise in calls for help. Quarantine has confined many victims of gender-based violence at home with their abusers, often under increasingly stressful circumstances. Stay-at-home orders have also made it difficult for many to access shelters or other vital supports. Through that lens, it has never been more important to take a stand against gender-based violence in our communities and at home. Today, as we honor the memory of those we lost at École Polytechnique, let us take a moment to recognize all of the women, our neighbors, co-workers, classmates, family, friends, those in our communities who live daily with the threat of violence or who have experienced its devastating effects. This is also a time to talk about what more can be done to end violence in all its forms, and to reflect on the role we each must play toward that end. As an educational institution, Sheridan has a responsibility to bring awareness to sexual violence and to foster a culture of consent, inclusivity, and respect to prevent such incidences from ever occurring. We recognize our role in creating a system of support where survivors are believed and have access to the resources they need to make informed decisions. Behind me today is Sheridan's Dare to Care banner, signed by students at past National Day of Remembrance observances to signal their commitment to taking a stand and speaking up. It is incumbent on all of us to consider how we can stand up to abuse and prevent further instances of gender-based violence in our communities. As a member of the Federal Advisory Committee on the Framework to Prevent and Address Gender-Based Violence at Post-Secondary Institutions, it has been my privilege to lend my voice to the committee's deliberations and to have played a small role in preventing and addressing gender-based violence on campuses across our country. Sheridan is working to create a community where the concerns of our peers and colleagues are proactively addressed, and we must all do our part to make this a safe and supportive place to learn and work. I'm proud of the work our Center for Equity and Inclusion has done on our collective behalf to develop, deliver, and promote initiatives designed to help members of our community understand their responsibilities and the resources available to them. This includes resources delivered to students throughout their time at Sheridan and key training for staff and faculty. We all have a role to play in driving change. Please, get involved in violence prevention programs. Learn how to intervene when you witness violence or abuse, and/or commit to challenging the systems and the power structures that put women, girls, two-spirited, and transgender people at risk. During the event, you will see images of the Peace Gardens at our Davis and Trafalgar campuses. These fixtures serve as a lasting memorial, not only to the victims of the Montreal Massacre, but to all victims of gender-based violence. In previous years, our tradition has been to lay 14 white roses in the gardens in memory of the victims of the attack at École Polytechnique. We will be adapting that tradition for our virtual environment. Thank you.
Geneviève Bergeron. Hélène Colgan. Nathalie Croteau, Barbara Dagno, Anne-Marie Edouard, Maude Haverniernik, Maryse Lagagnard, Maryse Leclerc, Anne-Marie Lemay, Sonia Pelletier, Michel Richard, Annie Saint-Arnaud, Annie Turcotte, Barbara Kluchnik-Bidievich, we lay one additional rose today in honor of all women who've lost their lives to gender-based violence.
Hello, everyone. I am Jane Ngobia. I am deeply honored to serve as Vice President Inclusive Communities here at Sheridan. Despite the challenges that COVID-19 has presented globally, Sheridan has continued to address the impact of sexual and intimate partner violence on our community. We are deeply committed to promptly and effectively taking action to address all forms of sexual violence and supporting individuals who have been impacted by it. We encourage members of our community to disclose incidences of gender-based violence where they feel most comfortable in order to receive guidance and support. As our operations shifted to remote services, the Center for Equity and Inclusion has worked hard to raise awareness of the particular impact that COVID-19 pandemic has had on those who live with the threat of gender-based violence. We have continued to offer resources in our new virtual world. We know that this new reality posed an even greater risk to persons who are living with perpetrators of sexual and gender-based violence. Being isolated with an abusive partner not only increases the likelihood that abuse may happen more frequently, it also decreases the ability of the survivor to access support and services. In response to this growing concern, Sheridan, along with our partners at Sexual Assault and Violence Intervention Services and Hope 24/7, created a webinar in April to discuss safety planning for individuals exposed to sexual violence and intimate partner violence during COVID-19. This webinar provided an opportunity to bring awareness to the prevalence of this issue. The webinar participant received a list of resources and tips on how to access supports during the pandemic. But more importantly, we assured them that they are not alone. While operating virtually, we continue to engage with our community partners to ensure that we are able to deliver information on topics like bystander training for students, consent culture, prevention of gender-based violence, and healthy relationships under our Dare to Care campaign. These initiatives are conceived and planned through consultations with members of our Sexual Violence Task Force, which is comprised of students, faculty, and employees from all our campuses. In the summer and the fall of this year, CAI and our legal department partnered with Osgood Hall Law School to develop and deliver 2 intensive 2-day training sessions for almost 100 frontline Sheridan employees and managers on how to identify, address, and prevent sexual violence on campus. To recognize Take Back the Night 2020, a global event aimed at ending sexual relationship and domestic violence in all forms, Sheridan's peer mentors, along with the social service worker program, created a module in Slate which boasts multiple resources, services, information, and support related to sexual violence and intimate partner violence. This includes several intersectional campaigns to create awareness, including how gender-based violence impacts marginalized populations and the resources available to address it. The module also provides an opportunity for students to take a pledge under the Draw the Line campaign. The content of this module will continue to expand and will remain accessible throughout the year to ensure that students are able to access the materials as needed. I have truly been inspired this year by our students, faculty, and employees' ability to continuously pivot and promote our initiatives and carry on vital advocacy work stand up to gender-based violence, even in these less than ideal times. We must all use our voices and actions to promote gender equality in our spheres of influence and set the message that gender-based violence will not be tolerated at Sheridan. Thank you for being here today. You're all taking an important first step to stand up for what's right, to say enough already, and to help stop violence against women. It is now my great honor to introduce Akeelah Robinson, who will be sharing some remarks on behalf of the Sheridan Students Union.
Hello, everyone. My name is Akeelah Robinson, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Davis Campus Vice President with the Sheridan Student Union. Today, we remember those who have experienced gender-based violence and reaffirm our commitment to supporting the safety and well-being of all women, girls, 2S LGBTQ, and gender-diverse individuals here at Sheridan, within our communities, and around the world. As a student-led organization, we are deeply committed to providing a safe and inclusive environment for all students. We achieve this through a diverse and inclusive programming, services, and advocacy. As a proud Sheridan student, I am here to ask you, my peers, to commit to doing your part. Together, We can help prevent and address gender-based violence by remembering, listening, creating a safe space for survivors on our campuses, and speaking up against harmful behavior when we witness it. Today, I pledge never to commit, condone, or stay silent about violence against women. You will hear from my Sheridan Student Union colleagues and peers who pledge to do the same. Thank you.
I pledge never to commit, condone, or stay silent about violence against women.
Thank you everyone for joining us today, especially to Grandmother Renee Thomas Hill for providing the blessing on behalf of the Grandmothers Voices Initiative, and Akeelah Robinson and our student leaders for their powerful calls to action. On December 6th, flags will be lowered to half-staff at our campuses in honor of the women whose lives have been lost to gender-based and intimate partner violence. Our collective efforts help to send a strong signal that the Sheridan community does not tolerate violence in any form. As a special symbol of our allyship and action, we invite all members of our community to take the White Ribbon Pledge. Since 1991, people have worn white ribbons to pledge to never commit, condone, or remain silent about violence against women and girls. The link to sign the pledge, along with digital resources and support services, have been shared with our community by email on Sheridan Central and will appear on screen shortly. Thank you all for tuning in to our annual observance. Take care of yourselves and stay safe.